Hello, welcome back to my channel. My channel is called Being Senior, and my name is Larry, and today we're going to talk about not really dealing with death so much. What we're going to talk about is dealing with life. As we get older, we lose friends and family, and it can be tough, but we're still here. So rather than talking about how we deal with death, how are we dealing with our life at this point? And for today's broadcast, I'm actually going to talk about myself. We're going to talk about when I had my stroke. I had a major stroke. And it's been a few years back, just before I was 60. I'm 75 now. Anyway, let's get right into it. When I first had my stroke, I was 3 months in the hospital. Pretty much had no chance to live. Nobody expected I would live. My doctor didn't think I would live. My wife didn't think I was live. I was paralyzed on my right side. I couldn't walk. I could barely talk. In fact, for a while I couldn't even talk at all. And so basically what was going on in my mind at that point is I was just sitting around waiting to die. I wasn't thinking about life. I didn't think life could ever be good again. In fact, I was just convinced it was over, and I was just waiting for that time to go by so the Lord could take me home. Now, I wasn't really afraid of going home. I am a Christian man, so dying wasn't something I was terrified of, but living in that condition was something I was terrified of. And I spent over 2 years rehabbing my mind and my body, physical rehab, mental rehab. It was 2 years of what seemed like hell. And I just lost my will to even try. I was so tired, so worn out. I was just ready to give up. I didn't even want to try. And at one point, I was so bad, I was in hospice, and I'd actually gotten down to the last day or so, and they were going to come the next morning, and they were going to start my morphine drip. And quite honestly, I was kind of looking forward to it. I thought, well, you know, life sucks being me right now, and I really just don't want to have to deal with it anymore. I'm ready to go on. Well, that wasn't God's plans for me. The night before, the hospice people were going to come in and start my morphine drip. I remember I had to come down the stairs to my living room, and I couldn't walk. In order to get down the stairs, I just put my butt down at the top of the stair, and I go down the stairs on my butt one at a time until I got down to the bottom of the stair. Then I would crawl on my hands and knees over to the couch. I'd climb up on the couch, and then I'd turn on the TV. And that's kind of where I was at the time. I didn't see anything getting better. I kept seeing it getting worse. Well, that night, I was actually sitting around watching the TV, and the strangest thing I have ever had happen to me happened that night. I was sitting there, and the whole wall, back behind the TV, the whole wall just turned white. It was cloudy. It wasn't just a bright white. It was a very cloudy white, and it actually looked like clouds, and I could see shapes moving around in the back in these clouds. I didn't know what they were. Quite honestly, I thought my time had come. I thought God had sent some angels down here to get me to take me home. Anyway, I sat there. I can't tell you exactly how long it was. It might have been a couple of minutes. It might have been 5 minutes. But it was long enough. It wasn't just a flash. It didn't just happen like for 2 seconds and that was it. It just kind of kept on going. And finally, after, I don't know if it was 5 minutes or 20 minutes, the clouds started disappearing and fading back into the wall, and the wall became focused again. And I remember just sitting there kind of looking around the room like, what just happened? Because I didn't have any idea what was going on. Well, I decided I'll go to the restroom and come back and think about it some more. And when I got up, I found I was able to get up. I hadn't been able to get to my feet for a couple of weeks. And now I got up and I stood up and I was walking just fine. I went to the restroom and came back and I thought, I can't believe this. And I thought, well, whatever it is that happened, I'm just going to take a little time and try to figure out what's going on. Anyway, the next morning, the hospice nurse and the doctor were there, and they were going to start my drip. And I said, I don't see any sense in doing this. I'm suddenly fine. They took my blood pressure, my heart rate, and everything was going. It was going just fine. Everything was under control. My blood pressure was a little bit high, but nothing dangerous. And I was able to walk. I could go up and down stairs. Everything was wonderful again. I couldn't believe it. So I consider that a miracle. The biggest change that came following that miracle for me was my change of mindset. It wasn't the miracle and the walking and everything that changed so much. I mean, yeah, it changed dramatically, but it's my mindset of life. I had to change the way I was going to start viewing things. I was no longer dealing with death. Now I had to deal with life. And that was kind of the way I started viewing things at this point. I was now out of hospice. I had a miracle. It's time to stop waiting to die. So, anyway, I was in California at the time, and I wanted to move back to Tucson, Arizona, which I did. And that next day, I called up and I hired a truck, hired 2 drivers, because I still couldn't drive. My depth perception is not really good enough to drive. So anyway, I hired 2 drivers and a truck. They drove me back to Arizona. I had the apartment all arranged. All that was done within 5 days. And it was a very quick moving time in my life that it would be impossible for me to really describe the changes. When I got back to Arizona, I was living this life of, I kept telling myself, it's probably the best time of my life. I'm just going to watch TV. I'm not going to socialize. I'm not going to get out. I'm not going to do anything. I don't really want to know new people. I just want to be left alone. And I'm just going to live an isolationist life. I was having my groceries delivered. I didn't even go to the grocery store. And I lived in that apartment for a few months. And then a very nice lady who had lived in one of the apartments in the complex I lived in at that point had told me about this senior residence where she was moving to at the time. She said, Larry, you got to go down here and you got to check this place out. I was really reluctant to do it, but she kept the pressure on, so I did come down and I looked at this place, and it was very nice, exceeded all of my expectations. And Anyway, they told me, they said, well, you can put in an application here if you want, but we're going to tell you in advance. It takes about 2 years before we're ever going to call you for an apartment. So I said, well, I got nothing to lose. I'll go ahead and fill out the application. I fill out the application, and in only about 60 days, they called me and they said they had an apartment for me, which was really nice. The rent was much lower than what I was paying where I was. Very affordable for me. And I moved into this apartment complex, but I still wanted to remain just kind of as an isolationist. Well, today, our broadcast is dealing with life, not dealing with death. So, at that point in time, I still wasn't dealing with life. Being isolated all the time is not healthy. Now, all of you have seen all these videos on YouTube that will tell you, oh, if you're over 60, don't get a girlfriend, or if you're over 60, don't get a boyfriend. Don't have too many friends. Friends are draining. You're best off to spend as much time alone as you can. I'm here to tell you I strongly disagree with that. I disagree with that more than I can tell you. One of the things that keeps us human is having interactions with other humans. Being an isolationist only isolates you, and isolation will lead to death. I firmly believe that isolation only leads to death. You need a human connection. In fact, there's really 3 things you need. One of the things, you need to go out there. You need to get out of your apartment. Even if it's only once a week, even if you're just going to a group at the library or your church or whatever, getting out and being part of a community gives you a reason to keep going. When you have a group that is glad to see you and makes you feel important and makes you feel that your life is worthwhile, you start feeling yourself like your life is becoming worthwhile. It's one of the best things you can do for you is to start making some friendships. And a senior community like I live in makes it real easy. Almost every month we have a senior dinner somewhere downstairs. We have little activities once in a while. And you make friendships. For me, I found, I joined a small group of people, about 8 or 10 of us who were Christians who would show up every Saturday morning. And we didn't really talk too much about Bible studies, but we all had the common denominator that we're all Christians, and it kind of set the tone for most of our conversations. And the human factor is one of the things you really need to keep you alive. And the next factor that I'm going to talk about a little bit is growing. We seem to reach a point as we grow, or as we get older. Now that I'm in my 70s, I'm always very careful about this. If we start just locking ourselves away in our apartment and not doing anything, we don't grow at all. One of the things that I started doing was trying to find things that I could do to push myself a little bit to get off the couch and get back into life. And it was slow. It didn't start out with, I got up one morning, I said, wow, I'm now entertained. I got lots of friends. My life is wonderful. No, it was a slow process of getting there. I started working on the computer more, started learning about things like AI, started learning about YouTube. I thought about the possibility of starting a YouTube channel. And I finally decided I would start a YouTube channel. But what I had to learn was unbelievable. I'd never used the camera like I'm using now. I don't use a telephone. I actually have a camera. And I didn't know anything about the sound. I had to learn about my wireless microphone, and you see that right here on my neck here. And had to use the camera. Had no idea when I bought it how to use it. Had to learn about enough lighting so that I didn't look like I was sitting in a closet when I'm doing these broadcasts. Then I had to learn how to upload a video, had to learn how to make thumbnails, had to learn all kinds of settings for every time I upload a video. And anyway, it got me to thinking how important it was to keep learning. The more I learn, the more worthwhile life seems to be. It's really been an eye-opener how important it is for me to learn things, excuse me, to keep learning and keep moving forward and keep trying, keep making new discoveries. In fact, just this week, at 75 years old, I went out and the love of my life, Janet, her car was showing a lot of signs of wear. Her car's 18 years old, and she's always taken great care of it as far as she's never missed an oil change or any service on the car. She's kept it up. It runs wonderfully. But she was never able to get out and do the hand washing or anything else, other responsibilities that came with the car. So I spent about 10 or 12 hours cleaning the interior, and I got it washed, and I put a wax on it and armor all the tires and worked on a couple little dents trying to get those straightened out. And by the time I was done, as far as she's concerned, she's got a brand new car now. It made her happy, it made me happy. And but the fact is, instead of sitting in my apartment thinking, I just want to try this, I just actually got out and did it. And I didn't have the tools that somebody who does this for a living professionally, an auto detail or detail person would do. I went out, I just bought me some wax and tire dressing and a little upholstery cleaner and went to town the best I could. And when I was done, the results were great. But most of all, it made me feel accomplished. I didn't feel like I was just sitting around anymore and looking out my window and saying, wow, wouldn't it be nice if? I just picked myself up and went and did it. Now, look, I know a lot of you 75 years old are not going to be able to go out and wax a car, but there are other things you can do. There's gardening projects. There are, if you're fortunate enough to have a home and a garage, there's woodworking projects. They don't have to be building an entire bedroom set. You can be building birdhouses or just little knickknacks and giving them away for friends. But the fact is, every time you start a new project, you're learning, you're not dying. And like I said, the key to this video is dealing with life, not death. So if you want to be alive, get out and start doing something. Don't sit around on your couch waiting to die. It's the most unhealthy thing you can do. And it doesn't make you real appealing to other people. Get out there and start getting to know some of your neighbors. You know, if you live in a senior community, you have more opportunities than any place that you're going to live as a senior. Because there's a lot of people who are just like you, living under the same circumstances where you live. But the key is not giving up. It's realizing you have a brand new start and realizing it's up to you to make the most of it. It's not up to anybody else. It's just up to you. So at the risk of getting too long-winded, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up for today. I'm not sure this is the last time we're going to visit this topic, but it was a great topic and I enjoyed sharing this with you. And anyway, if you like today's topic, I appreciate it if you'd like or subscribe and maybe recommend some of my other videos. So anyway, we thank you so much for being here and sharing your valuable time. I want you to know how much I appreciate it. So anyway, we will see you next time around, and we appreciate your time. All right, bye for now.